Yeah, so in terms of glossary of terms that we use in this circle of being shadow work uh, approach, one important term would be, let's start with the biggest one, consciousness. Consciousness, um, in this terminology we use here, consciousness is synonymous with awareness. So when I use consciousness or awareness, the same, absolute synonymous. Um, so consciousness as a term is refers to whatever that is which is aware of these sounds right now. Whatever that is aware of sounds, whatever it is that's aware of sensations in the body. So it's that which perceives. So that's important. Another addition to this definition is that it's that which is real which perceives, and that which it really perceives. So my teacher defines consciousness as the reality that is hearing these words right now. Yeah. Now another term synonymous that I haven't used much, but actually I would like to use more, is the word presence. Presence. Actually, presence is synonymous with consciousness and awareness. But you know, sometimes it's very good to have different kind of terms that are talking about the same thing, especially if that thing is subtle, that it may reveal a different dimension of that thing. So, and actually, yeah, so presence would be whatever that is which is present, which is consciousness that is present. So sometimes in some groups or some Buddhist or some pathways, they say, hey, eat with presence, walk with presence. Hey, I see you're absent. Can you bring more presence to the way we talk or the way we walk? So this is what it means, kind of bringing more, you are more consciously there. Yeah. It's a big temptation to go into each one of them a little deeper, but another thing, actually, since we are on this awareness, consciousness, presence, we hear sometimes the word the self, but the self, sometimes in these teachings, the self is like with capital S. Also, this appears in Hindu Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, these Hindu traditions, they use the self with capital S, which it's like the term they use it is actually what we really are, the real self, the real self, as opposed to the false self or the self we imagine to be. So just adding it on the glossary, the self with capital S. And in the fourth way, they use the term the real I, the real I, which is synonymous with the self and actually is synonymous with consciousness and presence and awareness. So all these words actually, they point out, they refer to the same thing. Okay. Let's take something else which is not synonymous. Although I want to say that there are many other terms that also, especially if you read all kind of spiritual literature, there are more terms pointing to the real identity, our true self, our presence, what we really are. Um, in 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 Christianity would be, or mystical Christianity would be the kingdom of heaven. So the kingdom of heaven is not referring to, or kingdom come. Uh, it's not referring to some special kind of great location after we die, uh, where it's milk and honey and virgins. No, the virgins I think is with the Muslims. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So So kingdom of heaven refers to, actually it's synonymous with the self, because actually in the let me do something here. Hold the thought. Okay. In the some Gospels, especially not the official ones, in the Gospel of Thomas or other Gospels that were found in later, disciples are asking Jesus, like, "Hey, when when the kingdom of heaven is going to come? When are we going to know it? How is it going to be?" And Jesus says often, repeatedly, the kingdom of heaven is not here or there. It's going to come some other time. It's right here, right now. It's within our heart. So the idea is that kingdom of heaven is a state of being. Anyway, I'm just bringing this here. The same term, so self-consciousness, awareness, kingdom of heaven, presence, synonymous. In Buddhism, they actually don't like to use the self. They don't like to use the word self, and they call it the no self, which can be pretty trippy, but they call the self the no self, or Buddha nature. They call it the Buddha nature. Now, why they call the no self, it's since I brought it up, I shouldn't have brought it up, but it's like, actually the presence or our real consciousness, if we get more familiarized with it and we get more used to it, let's say we get visited somehow, we explore it, it's very impersonal. Doesn't have the sense of like, oh, it's me, kind of me. It's more like some aware, empty, impersonal kind of sense of presence. So that's why the Buddhists, they actually, that's what Buddha said when he attained enlightenment or liberation. He said that there is no self; it's just consciousness. So there's not like a personal me. It's just this sense of being and all that. Buddha nature. In the Hindu, they call it the Atman. Atman would be like the higher self. In the Taoism, and actually I bought this book, I'll read the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is really synonymous with the self, kingdom of heaven. Yeah. This is not very helpful, this glossary, because it's all about the same thing. Let's use another term that I use here often. Let's say patterns. Patterns. Patterns referring to some recurring, either recurring thoughts, this pattern of thought, or pattern of feeling, or pattern of reaction. So part of our work here is that we become aware of our unconscious pattern, and from awareness we are observing them. So pattern is an important term. Pattern of behavior, pattern of thought, pattern of reactivity. So I may even ask you today to explore some pattern that you have. So some example of pattern is like, to talk about oneself all the time, to attract attention about oneself, attention-seeking pattern. You know, sometimes you can see with people, somebody says something and the other person is like, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I did this too. You know, so coming back, talking about oneself is some kind of unconscious mechanical pattern. I mean, gossip is a pattern of unnecessary mechanical talking. Um, we can have something like, let's say, when somebody says this, it happens with many couples. Um, Somebody says, hey, I need to stop now. I need some space. I need space. Can we please stop? Stop. I need space. For some people, this triggers abandonment pattern, abandonment wound, which they hear, oh, yeah, you don't love me, you're going to leave me, you're leaving. So it's a pattern. Whenever this word comes, I feel this explosion. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need space. I need some time to think about this. I need to cool off. Any slight disconnection evokes our called abandonment wound, uh, and then we feel some strong energies that take over us, and then then we have some thoughts, and then either usually we go into attack, like, oh yeah, oh, so anger and stuff, but that's really on top. Underneath is desperation and deep fear of abandonment and stuff, or closing, or now becoming closed, guarded, like, okay, well, I don't need you anyway, you know. So another pattern would be, give you example, yeah, fear of being alone. This is also an aspect of the abandonment wound. Let's say going from one relationship to another relationship, and as soon as some relationship ends, right away trying to find another one because it feels very uncomfortable to be by oneself, and right away seeking and looking for. So basically, relationship, there's a pattern of relationship is seen as to solve my problem that I don't even know I have, but somehow to solve, it's like a refuge. The relationship, the woman, the man is a refuge. Make my life make sense, or will make, I'll feel better, I will arrive. And anyway, I mean, this pattern of negative talk. You know, whenever we make every little thing, there's like, man, what you're stupid. Why did you do this? So criticism. So anyway, you guys got the idea. Another term I'll use, I think I'll finish with this. Another term I use is, let's say, false personality. False personality uh, would be a false sense of oneself. So, however, for the owner, we feel like this is me. This is me. So it's not false personality. It feels very much like me. And then we start the work, and due to conditions on the planet, and everybody is in false personality, and we start the work from false personality. But false personality, the term is that is not how we came here with. It's like a baby, doesn't have any false personality, and they starts to develop these belief systems, and interpreting the world, and having belief system about oneself or the world. So false personality is an accumulation, a psychological accumulation of information. Personality from Greek persona means a mask, so that we didn't have, that it develops, and then we are believing to be the mask. Uh, yeah. False personality is that which feels superior or feels inferior, and judges people, and judges, takes things personally. So false personality will be another term for what they call ego. So this helps. False personality, ego, false identity, the same thing. Patterns are patterns of false personality. And our presence is our true self, which is aware of our patterns and aware of false personality. The more we are observing and aware of this stuff, the more we are, without knowing, mm, diminishing the false personality, and then we are going back to our true self. Now, since I brought this, the false personality and false identity, some other synonyms, that none of these are my terms, yeah, but I use them, and these teachings that I give at homework, they use them, and also they are in modern, lingo. Another term, it's what I like from the fourth way, the ego. They didn't use the word ego, which is great because it's so common, and usually now in modern language, ego is associated with, oh, you have such a big ego. It implies somebody who has a lot of vanity and they are full of themselves. But having vanity and being full of oneself, this is a flavor of the ego. There can be the self-pity flavor of the ego, and still that's a very big ego too. It's just that, oh, I'm bad, I'm so broken. So the deficiency story, deficiency identity is the ego, false personality. Okay. In fourth way, they use the term also, I like, imaginary picture of oneself. Imaginary picture of oneself, referring to the ego. So it's not what we really are, but is the idea that I have about myself. I like that.
Non-judgmental of the ego.
What?
Non-judgmental of the ego, the term ego.
Yeah.
I like it. It's different.
Yeah. In non-duality, and I mean, in these more like teachings about consciousness that I've used some of them in this group, they use the term separate self or separate identity, which may be a little like vague at the beginning, but it's synonymous with the ego or false self, because the ego, what's characteristic about any, I'm better, I'm worse, I'm always right, I'm a victim, I'm alone, I'm this, all of them, they have a flavor of this sense of me being separate from you, separate from God, separate from all that is. So there's a feeling of separation. And actually all negative emotions, they are feelings of separation, feeling separate. So I just want to throw this out here because my teacher, Francis, says basically this, the cause of our suffering is the feelings and thoughts of separation, the belief of separation. And actually we are going into addiction because it's hard to bear feeling of separation. It's kind of hard. Yeah. All right. I think I went above my budget about this, so I'll just pause here with this glossary. But I can open it actually to some questions about this glossary, or no. So no, we don't, not checking in, no share. Just any questions you have about anything that I said here.